Welcome into PressBox Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of PressBox and PressBoxOnline.com. That man running away from the screen was Luke Jackson, but at least he's got a shirt on this time. Ross Grimsley is with us, and we're going to all talk baseball for about the next 30 minutes, and we hope you enjoy it. But first, I want to tell you that now is the time to place your baseball bets and your regular season football bets and college football bets with Superbook Sports. Superbook is the most trusted name in Vegas, and now you can use promo code StanCharles23 to score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, they will match your first bet up to $250 with promo code StanCharles23, all one word with no spaces. Don't miss out this season. Win some money with Superbook Sports and promo code StanCharles23. Visit superbook.com for team terms and conditions. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And I urge all you folks to sign up out there if you like to have multiple places to bet, or if you're looking for your first place to bet, go to Superbook Sports. Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson with us. Guys, it seems like this club just keeps playing better and better, and I'm talking about the team right above your left shoulder, Ross.
Yes,
and that's
sir.
the Baltimore Orioles.
Right.
It's hard to imagine any of us really saw this season going this well. Ross?
Stan, we talked to, I talked to some people, over the past couple of years with the minor league system of the Orioles. And we were talking about it earlier before the show came on, but they do so many little things correctly. They run the bases well. They play defense. They hit the cutoff man. They do so many things fundamentally well. And obviously it was happening at the minor league system. And I got, Shane Turner, our friend, scout with the Giants, he was first to tell me about this. And he says at Delmarva, Aberdeen, said the guys do a lot of things. They're athletic. They play the game the right way. They just do a lot of things correctly. And it obviously has shown by what's going on now at the big league level with this club.
Ross, let me just ask you one more to follow up on this. It's one thing that they do things right at each level, but am I correct? The really good organizations want it taught to do the same at each level. And that's, I think, sometimes where this gets complicated.
Well, that was always the
Oriole way.
The Oriole way, we've heard that before. And they do the basics. They make the routine plays. They throw to the correct base. They don't, and you see more so now, guys will try to throw people out at home and third and just miss the cutoff man altogether and let the runner that hit the ball go from home to second. And they don't keep the double play. There's fewer double plays in baseball now than I think the mid to beginning 1990s. And that's because the biggest defense is the swing and miss. But you can't always get that. But like I said, the O's do the small things. They do it at the bottom. It goes all the way through. Your good organizations do that. Your successful organizations do that. And I come from the Reds and the Orioles, which are the two winningest teams in the 70s. And they both did things at the minor league level and translated to the big leagues with the guys that came through. And you just had some pride in doing things the right way. And when you got the guys come up with some big plays because they're athletic now, and they just do so many small things and good things consistently. And they're one of the top teams in baseball.
Luke, big news tonight in Birdland is the return of John Means, who hasn't pitched a big league game since April 18th or something like that in
April
2021.
Yeah, I think it was April 13th.
Okay, it might have been 13.
2022. So yeah,
no, 2021, right?
No, 2022.
Okay, he did pitch last.
He
Right.
He barely pitched last year, but yeah. So it's been a long road back for John. Because not only was he coming back from Tommy John, But as he was ramping up, as tends to happen at times, when you're ramping back up from a long injury process, something else gets hurt. And I think he strained something in his back, and that set him back. I think he was hoping to debut around July, and that backed him up to September. But apparently he's ready to roll. He got up to 5 innings at Norfolk. I think his rehab assignment was up, and it was decision time. They've certainly got a need in the starting rotation, with particularly with Jack Flaherty not pitching very well since coming over from St. Louis. And as Buck Showalter used to say, our curiosity will be satisfied tonight when we see how John looks. What John put together one of the best single game performances in Orioles history back in 2021. And was one of the bright spots of the rebuild up until the time he got hurt. So hopefully it seems he's 100% healthy, and hopefully he pitches well today. I know this is a big day for John because this is the first time he will pitch as a big leaguer in a pennant race. And I'm sure it's challenging to be airdropped into a pennant race, but that's where the Orioles are, and that's where John is. So as I said, our curiosity will be satisfied.
Ross, the Orioles have a 4-game lead. They get John Means back. You've overseen, is it 3 or 4?
Three.
It's 3. That's right. No, Sunday, I forgot. It's 3-game lead. You've supervised some of these comebacks, I'm sure, from Tommy John surgery. What is priority number 1 for the team tonight and for John Means? And are they necessarily the same thing?
Well, I mean, Means is, I mean, what I saw with him when he was pitching well, he was had a smooth delivery, didn't try to overthrow. He had a tremendous changeup. His breaking ball got better, and his fastball, it makes his fastball look better and harder when he mixes in his off-speed stuff. But where he had a problem is, I don't know if you remember, he started trying to throw harder than he was capable of doing efficiently. And then he began to have some problems. And I think Scotty McGregor told me that, you got to get back to doing what you were doing before. You're trying to be something that you're not. And obviously that could have been something that led to this problem.
No question about it.
I know most pitchers that, and myself, the very last year I pitched, I think we talked about it, I strained my elbow trying to throw harder than I was capable of throwing out of stupidity, because I tried to throw hard spring training against the University of Miami, who lambasted me one year in 1975. And so I'm going to show them. So I ended up straining my elbow, because I'm trying to do something that I wasn't capable of doing. That is something that he has to, I think, be very aware of, is trying to do something that he is not accustomed to doing. And trying to throw harder than you should is a recipe for disaster. I've said it before, and a lot of people have. You got so much that you try to go past that point, you can take a big chance of injuring yourself again. And that may have been what led to this, and it may have been one of the setbacks that he had, trying to do more than he's capable of doing. And especially in a championship run that you're going on now, he's going to be pumped up, wants to impress everybody, but he's going to have to stay within himself and do what he does best, and that's mix pitches, throw strikes, and not try to overpower guys.
Is it an easier comeback, Ross, for somebody on a Tommy John injury? Is it easier for a guy who's not a real hard thrower, who isn't max effort, than for, say, a Justin Verlander or somebody else that's a 97, 98 mile an hour fastball?
You got to see what you got. And that's something that is usually something that builds up. I don't remember, Joe Nathan. He was with the Giants. He was a starter. He became an outstanding reliever.
Yep.
And he came back from labrum surgery, which is really tough. And he was just getting hammered. He just getting all beat up. And then he got sent down to AA. And I was the pitching coordinator at the time. And he wanted to hit 90 miles an hour. That was his big goal. And he hit it. And but he was trying to do more than he was capable of doing, and it took away from his command and his location. He couldn't locate the ball because he was mainly trying to throw with velocity, and to hell with locating the ball. He just wanted to, get the ball over 90. And when you do that, you're not helping anybody, and that's could be a problem physically for the pitcher.
Luke, the comeback of John Means, of course, is the big story today, and it will be for the foreseeable future to see how he fits in. Yesterday, Mike Elias made the story of the day was that the club finally officially acknowledged that Félix Bautista does have a UCL tear. I think he referred to it as a small tear. And they're saying the reason they're not rushing into surgery is he's going to miss the entirety of 2024. So they're just somehow, I guess, delaying the surgery for the potential of a miraculous miracle, so to speak.
Yeah. And I mean, if he decides to get surgery, he's done for 2024.
Right.
And Ross could speak to this a lot better than I could, but I guess there are pitchers out there who have and are still pitching with like a partially torn UCL, like UCL damage that they're pitching through. I know like the famous example is Irvin Santana, pitched for years and years with a partially torn UCL. How many pitchers, what percentage of pitchers, Ross, would you say are out there pitching with some form of UCL damage that they have to get treatment on after a start or after a relief appearance or whatever?
I would think a guy that throws around 100 miles an hour or a little over, that could be a problem, especially if you're a reliever. Your reliever, you're going to probably get up possibly every night.
Right.
You might not get in the game, but that's going to take its toll. So I can't really, I don't know if you're able to throw at that velocity, that power, and be able to bounce back. That's another thing. So I don't know the extent of the injury, but I mean, you got to see how the guy feels, but they're going to depend on him if he says he can pitch.
Right.
But again, the other thing is, I would think if you're going to have surgery, get it now, because the sooner you get it, the sooner you get back. But
well, they're acknowledging already that if he gets it at this time, that he's going to miss all of 2024.
He's going to miss it anyway, isn't he? Because
right.
Whether he gets the surgery or not is not going to speed up his ability to come back in the pennant race next year and get in there August 1st.
Right. I just see a guy that throws with that kind of effort and that kind of stuff, plus a split.
Right.
That's going to take. And if there's a small tear, you're taking how to get torn in the first place. That's another thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, now can it get worse? That's another thing you got to take into consideration. Right. I'm sure they're doing that.
I would guess if it's torn now, if he did try, say, the end of this month to just pick up a baseball and do a couple bullpens, and he says, it doesn't really hurt, that tearing it more is not going to change one thing in that surgery. I'm guessing.
Yeah,
you probably know more detail than I do.
I mean, it's everybody's different. Everybody, how they bounce back. But the guy that puts a pitcher that puts that kind of effort in each pitch,
right?
And plus you got a split, which can be really that puts a little strain on your arm, throwing a breaking ball, and being in the bullpen, being a closer that you possibly could pitch every 2 days in a row. You're going to be getting up probably, very possibly, 4 or 5 times in a row in the bullpen.
Well, I think we'd all agree with this, Luke. Last year when Felix was hurt in September, is it possible that was a slight UCL tear then?
No, he was that was a knee issue for Felix, and that was like the last week of the season. That was his first full major league season, so it was not a surprise to see that he broke down a little bit in a minor way late in the year. When his elbow gave out that night against the Rockies, that was shocking.
Yeah.
In the sense that, the ballpark went dead, basically. The Orioles won the game, and it was like you could hear a pin drop in there.
Right. Ross,
ahead.
Ross, you've watched. I guess you mentored a little bit under Roger Craig. Were you there when Roger Craig was a manager?
No,
with the
but a
Giants?
lot of guys that were
Oh.
there when I got there were aware of him and what he did and stuff.
Well, but he was the sort of the mentor to an awful lot of
Yes.
people. I go back. I'm old enough to remember Vern Law as being, or
Right.
Elroy Face as being
Yep.
the forkball, which
Right.
is the
Similar.
gave birth to the split finger.
Yeah.
But Roger Craig gets credited with having taught a lot of
Right.
pitchers,
Right.
and most of them broke down. That is a
Well, I mean,
very
it's-
tough.
You know,
that's
he
a very
taught
tough
him.
pitch on your elbow.
Yeah, he taught them to do it, bouncing it off of the turf.
Okay.
With that type of, but
Uh-huh.
it's a wrist. And I know Elroy Face, I think they would jam balls in their
fingers.
fingers to try to widen it as much as they could and get it. But yeah, the way you throw it can take its toll on your forearm and your elbow. So you got to be really careful. Some guys,
That's
it's like
how-
everybody never, yeah.
That's how it is, basically. And you
Yep.
tuck it in as hard as you can,
Yeah,
and you fling it,
yeah.
and this anyway,
It tumbles out.
it
Yeah.
tumbles out,
Yeah.
and the good ones drop like
It go
crazy.
straight down.
It's a much more predictable knuckleball effect
Yeah.
that doesn't
But
have
it
spin.
comes in looking like a strike, and the bottom falls out, and
Right.
it's in the dirt, and you swing over the top of it, And then they got one that and I don't know if they do it now. I don't think they do, but they could throw it for a strike. They would throw it's just like they would throw bad curveballs for strikes. And then when they got ahead in the count, they throw the good ones. Now they try to throw the good ones all the time. There's no finesse to it, just
Hey,
the
guys,
good ones all the time in the split,
Let me get my word in about the Costas Inn, and then we'll continue and talk a little bit about what the schedule makers have in store for the Orioles the rest of the way. The Costas Inn, located at 4100 North Point Boulevard. They've been there for only about 52 years, so they must be doing something right. They've got fantastic crab products, whether it's your steamed crabs, whether they're Maryland crabs or from Texas, Louisiana. They're steamed up Maryland style, and they taste oh so good. They've got great crab soup. They've got great crab cakes. But don't forget, they've got specials every night of the week. Go to their website, costasin.com, costasin.com, and you can order your food online. You can pay for it online, and you can pick it up without even having to get out of your car. The Costas Inn, a Baltimore landmark for these many years, and it will continue that way. The Triantafilos family know how to treat you right, and they will do it. Please tell them Stan the Fan and the guys at Press Box told you to stop by. Back to some baseball talk. Luke, you're the guy I want to talk to.
Okay. All right.
It was really a choice between Luke and Ross there for a second.
Well, one of us is pitched in the major leagues.
Yes, that's true. Between the two of you, you won how many games between the two of you, Ross? 138.
Plus, what?
How many did you win? 138?
No, 100, I think 124.
124. So you and Luke together won 124
Yeah.
games.
If I could have played for 50 more years, I might have been in the Hall of Fame.
That's it's not out of the question. You're basically doing broadcast work now. If the commissioner ever sees this show, he might say that Ross Grimsley should go in as the broadcaster.
Oh, God.
Luke, but getting back to the Orioles, they got this 2 games left with the Cardinals, and then the series that everybody wants. The Tampa Bay Rays come to town for Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon. 4 games here at Camden Yards. And I hear that Friday night, the return of Adam Jones night, where he's going to officially retire as an Oriole, and there's going to be a T-shirt. I hear that game is officially sold out.
Yeah, that one's sold out. I don't know how the other games are going. I'm sure they're doing well.
I've heard they're well into the mid-30s right now.
Right. I mean, it's the biggest series in Baltimore since at least 2016.
Since the Tigers.
Right, you know what? You're probably right. Since that
Since
Tigers
2014,
series,
yeah.
2014, but probably the biggest series in Baltimore since then. You're absolutely right. So, and it seems like both teams are lining up their best arms for that series. I think it looks like Kyle Bradish maybe on Thursday, and then you'll see Grayson Rodriguez later in that series, probably Dean Kramer later in that series. Who knows? Maybe John Means, maybe Jack Flaherty, and it looks like you're going to get Tyler Glasnow for the Rays at some point. You'll get Aaron Savali at some point, and help me out.
Zach Eflin.
You'll get him in that series, and then Eflin threw a gem against the Orioles. I think about 6 weeks ago. In Tampa Bay. So you're going to get the best arms for each team. And we'll see how it shakes out. And we'll see what exactly the situation is going into that series. Both teams have 2 games heading in. At least they're on level footing. It's not like one team has an off day before the series and the other team doesn't. So they'll be on level footing heading into that series, and we shall see. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to have those big crowds at Camden Yards for such a meaningful series. That's not to say that the entire season comes down to that series, but it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it is a pretty big deal. Ross, how surprised are you in light of the losses that the Rays have had? First of all, they didn't have Glasnow the first 6-7 weeks of the season. Then they lost Jeffrey Springs. Then they lost Rasmussen. And now, most recently, they lost. Who's the third starter they lost? Luke.
The left-hander.
Yeah,
He's having
Shane McClanahan.
Yeah, he's having surgery. Yeah,
right. He's having Tommy John. All 3 of them are having Tommy John surgery or have had that. And then the loss of Wander Franco, and then a valuable bullpen arm in Jason Adam. And the club
and they just lost Siri too.
And they just lost Jose Siri. Yep.
Siri. Yeah. Yeah.
So
you had to bring that in. He was on my fantasy team.
Oh,
sorry.
I've lost four players in about 4 days.
Yeah.
I've lost Rengifo and Moniak, Tom Murphy, and Siri all in a row.
Yeah.
And Tom Murphy was supposed to be back. He was first hurt. He sprained his thumb. He was supposed to be back from August 15th. At August 25th, they said it looks like he's making a rapid recovery. He now shows up on the list back October 1st. That gives me a lot of Tom Murphy left. But seriously, how impressed are you that the Rays have suddenly sprung back and playing some of their best baseball of the year?
Yeah, no, they always manage to come up with something. I mean, they had a spell where they just didn't play very well. They obviously have lost a lot of pitching. Now they've lost a couple of players, but they keep, like you said, they keep inching back. So I know I expected more out of them when they started playing. They had the big lead, not really the big lead, but they were up by a few games, and then they just stopped. Just everything went south on them, and they're just starting to come back a little bit, which is there's a great time to do it now. But again, I think the Orioles have the best team, if not the best team in baseball. They're starting to hit more,
yeah,
which is really a great sign, And Houston's scary, but Tampa. I think the Orioles are going to do well against them. But don't say nothing about how bad the Orioles played against them in the past. Well, we don't want that. We don't want to let that cat out of the bag and cause any problems.
Ross, I'm going to start with you on this, and then I want to get Luke's opinion. A lot of people are talking, and I just wrote my column about the postseason roster. Is that up today on the website?
Oh, it's up.
Okay, it's up. Everybody's talking about it. If you were managing or pitching coach of the Baltimore Orioles, and I know you're not up here and you don't watch every single game, it's clear that Radish and Kramer are two of your top starters, right?
Right.
Is number 3 for you Grayson Rodriguez in the playoffs, or is it still Kyle Gibson because of the experience factor and the fact he's won 14 games for you?
No, he has, but you know what? Rodriguez has really shown something since his recall. I mean, he's got tremendous stuff. He's got a live fastball, good breakable. He's limited now to 3 pitches, which makes it you don't have to
simple
think
for
about a
him.
lot of stuff.
Right.
I got 3 pitches. His biggest, one of his biggest things that I think that if he gets a groove, he's got such good stuff. He'll get away with mistakes at times, you know. But he's a guy. I'm putting him. He's going to be one of the first 3 guys. In,
All right, so that's my question, and I'll get to Luke in just a second on this. About 2008, the Tampa Bay Rays, their most talented pitcher was David Price. But David Price was used in the postseason that year, maybe partially because they were guarding him against innings or something like that. Could you envision using Rodriguez 2 or 3 times in a 7-game series if he doesn't start, but he's used as a sort of secret weapon in the middle of games in the 4th, 5th, or 6th inning?
He's one of the top 3 guys in your starting staff. For me, this guy's got too good of stuff, and he's a young kid. I'm not a young kid, but he's a young pitcher who hadn't pitched a whole lot, but it doesn't seem to bother him. He's got really tremendous stuff, and I think you run him out there. You run him out there.
Luke, you feel the same way Ross does?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I do. Grayson has never pitched in relief for any meaningful period of time. He probably piggybacked off of somebody in the minor leagues at some point, but he's never done that certainly never done that at the major league level. So you probably have to experiment with it the last couple of weeks of the season. They're not in a position where they can experiment with him because it's not like they're 10 games up. They still have a division to win. So, and I understand the innings standpoint. And right now, you know, if he pitched deep in October, I mean, we're talking like 180 innings for him this year after a year in which he, I think, threw about 75. That's a big jump. There's no question about it. And you start to wonder, how is the stuff going to look in October? And moreover, how is the stuff going to look like in June of next year? You know, if he has that kind of innings jump this year. But I think I agree with Ross where he's one of your 2 or 3 best starters. And stuff plays in the playoffs. You need swing and miss stuff in the playoffs. Those pitch to contact guys don't fare.
There's no question about that. But my point isn't that he's less than Kyle Gibson or less than Bradish. It's the fact that he can impact. To me, he can impact a series more, being what I'm calling sort of a weapon rather than being your number 3 starter, because he isn't going to start in front of Kramer or Bradish. So in
I would start him in front of Kramer.
Okay.
You know, it depends on the matchups and where the games are played. You know, if it's for me, you know, maybe game 2 you go Kramer if it's a tiny ballpark on the road and you want to keep a fly ball pitcher like Kramer away from that, and maybe throw Grayson in game 3 on the road where you need more swing and miss. So I think that's matchup based. I think Kyle Bradish is your game 1 starter. I think
question about it.
He has earned that. And so, I mean, we'll see. I understand where you're coming from, Stan. I just wonder about the fact that I think you would have to gear him up for that by using him in relief a little bit late in the year. And I just don't know if they're going to be in a position to do that.
Okay. I don't think that's I don't think that's a prerequisite to doing. They didn't do that with David Price that year, if I recall correctly. They saw an opportunity that he could impact more games that way. And it played out that he helped get him to the World Series that year. Yeah. Go ahead, Ross.
I say he was a more veteran guy. He's got some more innings under his belt.
Not in 2008 so much. I think
he wasn't.
Well, I mean, I will say this about Price. That year in 2008, he started 1 game in the regular season and 4 in relief. only 14 innings in 2008. I think that was his draft year out of Vanderbilt. If I'm not mistaken. No, he was drafted out of Vanderbilt the year prior. He was drafted out of Vandy in 07. And then he came up.
Did he pitch at all in the majors in 07, late in the year?
No. And but
so a slightly different scenario.
Yes.
No question.
I'd really be careful with that. I mean, to use them, I mean, that's a great idea, but you just got to be careful in this. And plus, they're so worried about the innings and getting them up and down more times over a period of time.
Given the inning situation, do you then go with 4 starting pitchers? Is Gibson and Rodriguez starters?
With the understanding that 2 or 3 of those probably turn into bullpen games anyway. You know what I mean? And so I
think they all turn into bullpen.
Yeah, you might be right. And so I think it's totally matchup based. If you're facing a team with a lot of right-handed hitters, I think that's a good spot for Kramer. If you're facing a team that a power hitting team, maybe in a smaller ballpark and you need ground balls, maybe that's a Kyle Gibson start. If you're facing a lot of left-handers, maybe that's a John Means start. I think it is matchup based. I'm just spitballing here, but after Kyle Bradish for game 1, I think you could go a lot of different directions, and I'm not going to argue too much in any way because like I said, after Bradish in game 1, I don't think anything is like concrete at this point.
All right. Guys, some news today in the world of baseball that the New York Mets have hired former Milwaukee Brave executive David Stearns to run that whole organization. He is now above a general manager. He's, I guess, vice president of baseball operations for the New York Mets. Billy Epler's the general manager, and Buck Showalter, the field manager. Do you think both of them survive this? Or I have my thoughts, but Luke, I'll start with you.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about this before we went on the air. I think it depends a little bit on whether Steve Cohen is okay with an evaluation year and letting David Stearns take a full gander at the organization, so to speak, throughout the course of a full season, and seeing what he wants to do at manager, seeing what he wants to do with his general manager, et cetera, et cetera. And I just don't know if that's going to be the case. I don't know if in that market, with the amount of money that Steve Cohen has poured into that team, whether he wants to take a 1-year break. I think if you hire David,
and I think that presupposes that David Stearns hasn't watched the Mets much this year.
I suspect that he's watched them.
He's had his eyes on that.
Yeah. And I also suspect if you're David Stearns, a highly accomplished executive, that you already have some managers in mind, perhaps.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if one of them is Craig Counsell. Could be his contract is up at the end of the year. He just seems like the Brewers manager to me, but who knows? So yeah, in terms of the future of Buck Showalter, I don't know if I feel great about it. But I don't know how you can feel great about it. And all Steve Cohen said earlier this year when asked about Buck was that
not his fault.
It's not his fault. A, B, he'll finish the year, and C, he has a contract through next year, and I expect him to be there.
Yeah.
But he didn't really say, "Oh, Buck's my guy.
Right.
He'll absolutely be there." He stopped short of saying that. So,
and trust me, one thing, I'm not predicting you're wrong or anything, but trust me, the topic of Buck Showalter and Epler's future was discussed by Stearns and Cohen. Right. It's not like he's coming in and he's going to find out in a week, oh, I don't have the right to get rid of those guys. Now he probably needs a general manager, and I don't know the reputation of Epler that well. He did not do that well with the Angels. Right. And aside from last year, he hasn't done that great with the Mets either. So,
yeah, and a lot of the same issues with LA and the Mets, where big payrolls, but the depth, organizational depth, bullpen depth, just understanding that to get through, and Ross knows this better than us, to get through a 162 game season, it's really like a 50-player effort. and you have to be able to dip down into your minor league system and find guys who can, if one of your studs misses a month, you can find somebody in the minor leagues who can at least be competent, bring competence to the table. And that was something that's particularly on the pitching side that the Mets really struggled with this year. And that was the case in LA with the Angels as well. And we know how long it took the Orioles to build up their pitching depth to where it is now. Think about 2 years ago, the Orioles didn't even have the pitching depth sometimes to get through games. Now look at where they are pitching wise, a much better spot. So, I don't, in terms of Epler, I know he and Stearns are very good friends. And so I don't know.
Might help him. That might
I
help
don't know
him.
if Stearns is going into this thinking that, Epler's a part of this.
Yeah.
And that he and I would make a really good team. We'll see.
Yeah.
But certainly Cohen and Stearns have some ideas up their sleeve if they've gotten this far down the road.
Yeah. Ross, your thoughts on that, and then we'll let everybody
Yeah,
go.
and usually new guy comes in charge, he's gonna bring his own guys in.
Yep.
And that usually what happens. So like everybody said, it's a wait and see. And like I said, I'm sure the top brass has discussed this in what direction to go. And we'll probably start hearing some stuff here in the next several weeks.
Yeah. I don't think this bodes well for Buck Showalter's future as manager of the New York Mets, and very fond of Buck, but this could be the end of the road for him.
Could be. Yeah.
Very few managers get to manage 2 or 3 times in the big leagues. 4 times is beyond the pale. And he and Dusty Baker are the only 2 I can find that have managed 5 times now. And Buck, for whatever the reasons at different places, he just has never gotten it done. And I don't think he gets a 6th chance, unfortunately. So we'll see. Hey guys, I appreciate your being on with me as always. We'll be back next Monday. Want to remind you that now is the time to place your baseball bets and your regular season football games and the college football slate as well with Superbook Sports. Superbook is the most trusted name in Vegas, and now you can use promo code StanCharles23 to score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, they will match your first bet up to $250 with promo code StanCharles23, all one word with no spaces. Don't miss out this season. Win some money with Superbook Sports and promo code StanCharles23. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. For Luke Jackson, for Ross Grimsley, I'm Stan the Fan, and we'll see you down the road pretty soon. Go O's and go Ravens. Bye. And go Terps, for that matter. Bye.